Hi, I'm Tina Mickelson, and I'll be your host for this Women's Golf Summit Profiles program presented by the SCGA and SCPGA. I've been a PGA golf professional for over 30 years. I serve as a brand ambassador for Callaway Golf, act as a content provider for the SCGA, and I'm the director of women's programming and instruction for the Golf Channel Academy with David Impastato. As career paths for women have grown in the broader marketplace, these expanding opportunities have also made their way into the golf category. Traditional careers in golf, such as PGA professionals, are now accompanied by roles as golf course superintendents, golf course architects, marketing and advertising professionals, content creators, and product design engineers. Today, we are fortunate to speak to three women with very different careers and all working in golf. We will find out what led them to golf, challenges they have faced along the way, and where they see themselves going in the future. We think you will find these conversations both enlightening and inspiring. Our first guest is Alexis Eader. Alexis is a video producer and content creator currently serving as a supervisor, video producer, and editor at Callaway Golf. So Alexis, Why don't we start by you telling us a little bit about where you grew up in your early education days?
Sure. So I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, and it is like, I always tell people, it was a big city. I mean, there was 1 million people there from when I was growing up, but it feels really small. And it was a really great place to grow up, really hot, but you know, it's a dry heat, as they like to say. But I really loved it. I had made some great friends there and ended up going to college in Phoenix.
In Phoenix?
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of college, what did you study in college, and did you have any early career plans?
I actually, going into college, I started at the University of Arizona and I went undecided for a semester. And then I took this quiz that they had at U of A online where you'd like tell the site about yourself, and then it would give you a list of major options. And mine were all languages and then journalism. And there were languages. I loved Spanish. Like, that was my favorite subject in school. I minored in it eventually.
Oh, wow.
And I thought that I would, if I didn't go into law enforcement, I was going to be a Spanish teacher. And my dad was like, I would really like you to find something, maybe, like, nothing wrong with either of those things. But like, so anyways, I chose journalism. And the U of A journalism program at the time was just restarting after not existing for like 3 years.
Right.
And the school up the road, Arizona State, has one of the best programs in the country, and they have for a long time. So yeah, it all worked out for the best. I went to the Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication up at ASU, and it was the best 3.5 years. Yeah.
So then when you graduated, what was your first introduction to a position in the golf industry, and who introduced you?
Funny enough, this is my first and only position in the golf industry here at Callaway. So when I graduated, I thought I was going to be a director, which in live TV. So backtracking a little bit, I studied broadcast journalism. I went full production route. I did not want to be on camera. I had like zero interest in that. And I loved calling the shots and directing and technical directing in the control room. And I knew that that was a really an not easy ticket for me in television, but an easy sell, because keeping women in the television industry is really hard. Yeah. And I loved sports, and I just thought I was going to be directing for ESPN. That was my thing. So I came out here to work at the Fox Sports, which is now Bally Sports, and I did that for a season. And like a month into that job, I was contacted by my old boss at school, because I worked at my school, and he said, "Do you have time to take on something else?" And I said, yeah. At the time, I didn't have work that week. So I was like, absolutely, I can take on another job. Right. And I came in for an interview to run audio for our web show at the time, which was called Callaway Live. And my now boss, Jeff Newbarth, said that they were looking for someone, you know, to run audio and do some video edits. They would be like pretty flexible and be part-time for a while, and then we'd see where it goes. And I was like, okay. And so I worked from like June through the end of baseball season. I worked like 80-hour weeks with no days off. And then I got hired at Callaway full-time in November of that same year, 2015, and I've been here ever since.
Wow, that really says a lot that you're still here after 80-hour work week. So the importance
80 between the two jobs.
right.
Yeah.
But it says a lot about loving what you do. Just loving what you do.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate that like I used to like to edit videos as a kid, and I didn't even know that that was a thing. Like I would put together photo slideshows of our family vacations, and I didn't like being the center of attention, but I loved telling stories to people of something funny that happened at school or, you know, at my dance studios, like whatever. This ended up being a really good career for me, crafting stories on video.
Do you have any career highlights in particular that stick out to you?
Yeah, there's a lot, I think. I think coordinating like the LPGA shoot that we did a few years ago, it was like 2 years ago, here was really special to me because we hadn't brought our ladies together in a while. It's hard to get their schedules aligned, and then of course having you there was really cool, and that was really neat to me because we got photography of the ladies in two groups, and just like showing women in a community was really important to me.
Right.
I think especially because I've never worked in a field that has a really strong female community.
Right.
But you latch onto it in the golf industry. As soon as you find another woman around you, you're like, oh my gosh, come hang out with me, come be with me. So that was really neat. I was also fortunate to work 2 U.S. Opens for the USGA just through a connection, which was really cool. And that was like back in my TV truck,
Right.
you know, realm. So that was neat. And then I've done 2 like long form projects that I'm really proud of. We did one documentary on our golf plant in Chicopee, Massachusetts that I got to put together. It was like a 30-minute feature that went on the Golf Channel, so that was really cool. And then right now we've been working on the Rogue Race, which was a 2-day shoot, and it's like this big challenge with our guys, and it has been so fun, and it's a lot of work. Like we have our whole team working on it, but it's been really rewarding.
Good for you. That sounds really exciting. Speaking of which, are there any paths throughout your career that you would have changed? Anything you would have done differently? And I'm not necessarily talking about any regrets, just anything you would do differently if you had to do it again?
That's a good question. Definitely no regrets, ever. I'm a very firm believer in like whatever steps you take are going to get you where you're going to go.
Right.
Whether you think it was meant for you or not, it's kind of inevitable. But I think it would have been investing more of my time into like the very fine details of production. I think there's a lot to be said about like I was at school for 14 hours a day around cameras and audio equipment and people that worked in news, which I didn't want to do, but they were still in that environment for a long time. And I wish I had asked more questions and just like while I was there all the time, I don't think that I took advantage of the opportunity to really learn everything that I could have.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, having said that, what advice would you give to young women today who are hoping for a career in the golf industry?
I there's a few things, but I think the biggest thing is to value your connections. You really never know who's going to be that person that says, hey, I heard that there's a job over here, or I know this person, like, do you want to just talk to them? I've told younger women plenty of times, but like, who you know is almost everything, because you can back yourself up, like with your knowledge and your skills. Like, people are gonna realize what you're capable of very quickly.
Right.
But getting a foot in the door is a lot harder than it used to be, and it used to be hard too. And like now, I'm a testament to this. All the jobs that I've had, they've all been from people that I know. Not like I got the job, don't get me wrong.
Right,
I
right.
earned my jobs. But like, I cannot say enough for being kind to people and getting to know people, even just on like the smallest level, to where you can greet them, ask them how they are, talk to them about what you're doing. It doesn't have to be like a full life story all the time, just enough contact, getting their name, their phone number, and their email, and keeping in touch is huge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, as you say, it's important to appreciate and use your contacts. But being a woman in a male-dominated industry, what kind of impact has that had on you, if any?
A huge impact, I think. First and foremost, I had to toughen up a little bit. And I know a lot of people will say that. Like, a lot of women will say that. And, you know, as much as it can kind of stink to say that, it's also important, because I think no matter what industry you're in, whether it's male-dominated, female-dominated, whatever, or it's a good mix, good balance, you still need to be able to take criticism and, react properly and to rebound. And that's like one of the biggest things, is when you take criticism, or if you make a mistake, how are you going to then, how are you going to react? What are you going to do next? Are you going to make the mistake again, or are you going to take note of what you did? And I think being a woman in male-dominated industries, whenever I messed up, it was like much more noticeable. Or it was like they were always looking at me just a little bit different, critiquing me a little harder, and it's not necessarily on purpose. I worked with some great guys, and I've been really lucky. But like, I'll never forget when I was in the TV truck once at a baseball game. I was sitting there on my off hours just watching the game broadcast, and they swapped me out with the assistant director, and the first question they asked me was who was due up, and I hadn't been paying attention to the game because I was watching other stuff in the truck, and I had no idea. And my producer was like, if you want to sit here, you should know that. And I never made that mistake again. So I think if I was going to advise like women going into male-dominated industries, it's just like, keep yourself buttoned up, always be aware, and take note of what's happening around you, and watch the guys that are like in the positions that you're looking at, or the women, because they're doing something right. And I think you can still do it your own way, but you have to be able to do what's asked of you.
So I'm going to add a little side note here, and I don't mean to embarrass you, but I have worked with you on many shoots. And one of the things that stood out immediately, and you have brought to every shoot, is the fact that you're making everyone's job around you easier, including mine, but you're running the show. And I think that's a very unique quality that you either have or you don't. But I think what you just said explains how you've been able to achieve that, because I've watched you, like I've said, and when things happen, and they always happen on shoots, especially when they're outdoors and you have the weather and the airplanes and everything to deal with, nothing rattles you. You take whatever it is in front of you, you handle it, you deal with it, we move on, and that's something that I've learned from you. So I appreciate that, but it doesn't surprise me because of everything that you've shared with us today. So
Thank you.
I don't want to embarrass you, but I
No.
am very impressed by you and your work, and the golf industry is very lucky to have you.
I really appreciate what you said because that means a lot to me.
Well, you do it well, and it sticks out, and thank you. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for everything you shared with us. We really appreciate it.